Imagine a weapon so powerful that it can level a city in an instant, reducing bustling streets and towering buildings to mere rubble and ash. The aftermath is a haunting landscape, leaving behind a trail of devastation that echoes through generations, altering lives and reshaping history. This is the terrifying reality of a nuclear bomb, a weapon of mass destruction that has the power to change the course of humanity in a single, catastrophic moment. The atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki serve as stark reminders of the destructive power we hold in our hands. These events are etched into the annals of history, a somber testament to the devastating potential of nuclear warfare. In this exploration, we delve into the immediate and long-term consequences of a nuclear detonation, seeking to understand not just the physical destruction, but the profound human and environmental toll. We will examine the science behind the blast, from the initial explosion to the complex chain reactions that follow, unraveling the intricate details of nuclear physics. The impact on human life is immediate and harrowing, with countless lives lost in an instant and survivors facing unimaginable suffering and long-term health issues. The environmental destruction is equally severe, with ecosystems obliterated and landscapes rendered uninhabitable for decades, if not centuries. Our journey begins with the moment of detonation, a split second where the unimaginable energy of a nuclear reaction is unleashed in a blinding flash of light, marking the beginning of widespread devastation. This flash is more than just light, it is the release of energy that can incinerate everything in its path, a harbinger of the destruction to come. We will explore the physics behind this explosion, understanding how the energy is released and propagated, creating a blast wave that can flatten buildings and shatter windows miles away. From the initial blast wave to the searing heat that follows, capable of igniting fires and causing severe burns, the immediate effects are catastrophic. And then there is the deadly radiation, an invisible killer that lingers long after the initial explosion, causing long-term health issues and genetic damage. Understanding the mechanics of this weapon is crucial to comprehending the true extent of its destructive power. By dissecting its components and the science behind its operation, we gain insight into the magnitude of its impact and the importance of preventing its use. At the heart of a nuclear bomb lies a process that splits atoms, releasing an unfathomable amount of energy in a fraction of a second. This process, known as nuclear fission, involves the nucleus of an atom being split into two or more smaller nuclei, along with a few neutrons and a large amount of energy. The energy released during fission is what makes nuclear bombs so devastatingly powerful. This sudden release creates a blinding flash of light, so intense that it can cause temporary or permanent blindness to anyone looking directly at it. The light is so bright that it can be seen from miles away, turning night into day for a brief moment. This flash is one of the first indicators of a nuclear explosion, and it precedes the other destructive effects by mere seconds. The air around the bomb instantly heats up to millions of degrees Celsius, vaporizing everything in its immediate vicinity. This fireball expands rapidly, consuming buildings, vehicles, and anything else in its path. The sheer heat generated is enough to cause spontaneous combustion of materials that are not even in direct contact with the explosion. This intense heat doesn't just affect the immediate blast zone, the heat wave spreads outwards, affecting a much larger area. The thermal radiation can cause severe burns to people and animals, even at considerable distances from the epicenter of the explosion. The heat can also ignite fires over a wide area, leading to secondary fires that can cause additional destruction. Even at a distance, the heat can melt metal, ignite fires, and cause severe burns. The intense thermal radiation can turn solid structures into molten debris, and the fires that start can spread rapidly, fueled by the materials in the environment. People caught in the open can suffer from third-degree burns, which can be life-threatening and require immediate medical attention. The light and heat radiate outwards at the speed of light, impacting everything in their path before the sound of the explosion even reaches them. This means that the destructive effects of the explosion are felt almost instantaneously, leaving little time for people to react or seek shelter. The combination of intense light, heat, and the subsequent shockwave makes a nuclear explosion one of the most devastating events imaginable. Following closely behind the blinding flash comes a deafening roar, the shockwave. This immense wall of pressure expands outwards from the detonation point at supersonic speeds, flattening buildings, pulverizing concrete, and tossing vehicles like toys. The force of the shockwave is powerful enough to level structures miles away from ground zero. The shockwave doesn't discriminate, it tears through everything in its path, leaving behind a trail of debris and destruction. Those caught in the open are at the mercy of its immense power, often lifted and thrown with incredible force. The intense heat from the explosion ignites fires across the blast zone, creating a raging inferno that consumes everything in its path. Buildings, vehicles, and vegetation are engulfed in flames, turning the once familiar landscape into a sea of fire. These fires contribute to the overall devastation, further hindering rescue efforts and adding to the death toll. The combination of the shockwave and the fires creates a deadly 1-2 punch. Structures weakened by the blast are consumed by the flames, while the fires themselves create their own updrafts, pulling in oxygen and fueling their growth. The resulting firestorm can rage for hours or even days, making it nearly impossible to approach the affected area. Section 5. The Invisible Killer. Radiation. Perhaps the most insidious effect of a nuclear explosion is the invisible killer radiation. This invisible energy released at the moment of detonation can penetrate walls, clothing, and even human flesh, causing severe damage to living cells and DNA. Exposure to high levels of radiation can be fatal within hours or days. Even those who survive the initial blast and its immediate aftermath are not out of danger. Radiation sickness, with its debilitating symptoms of nausea, vomiting, hair loss, and internal bleeding, can manifest days, weeks, or even years later, often leading to a slow and agonizing death. Section 6. Fallout, a lingering threat. The dangers of radiation don't end there. After the initial blast, radioactive particles, known as fallout, are carried by wind currents and dispersed over a wide area. This fallout contaminates everything it touches: water, soil, food, posing a long-term threat to human health. Consuming contaminated food or water can lead to internal radiation exposure, increasing the risk of cancer and other health problems. The long-term effects of fallout can persist for decades, impacting generations to come and leaving a lasting legacy of the explosion. Section 7. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Grim Reminders. The devastating consequences of nuclear weapons are not hypothetical scenarios confined to textbooks. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, forever etched in history as the first and only targets of atomic bombs, serve as grim reminders of the human cost of these weapons. The immediate aftermath of the bombings was catastrophic, with hundreds of thousands of people killed instantly or succumbing to injuries and radiation sickness in the following weeks and months. The cities were reduced to rubble, and the survivors faced a long and arduous road to recovery. Section 8. Scars that never fade. The physical scars of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings may have faded over time, but the psychological and emotional scars remain etched in the survivors, known as hibakusha. Many struggle with chronic health problems, the fear of radiation-related illnesses, and the psychological trauma of that fateful day. Their experiences serve as a poignant reminder of the enduring human cost of nuclear war, a cost that extends far beyond the immediate casualties and physical destruction. The hibakusha have become vocal advocates for peace and nuclear disarmament, sharing their stories to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. Section 9. A legacy of fear, a hope for peace. The development and use of nuclear weapons marked a turning point in human history. The Manhattan Project, a secret wartime effort, brought together some of the greatest scientific minds to create a weapon of unprecedented destructive power. The first successful test in July 1945, known as the Trinity test, demonstrated the terrifying potential of nuclear energy when harnessed for war. It ushered in an era defined by the constant threat of annihilation, a fear that permeated every aspect of life during the Cold War and continues to cast a shadow over international relations today. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, meant that any nuclear conflict would result in the total annihilation of both the attacker and the defender, creating a tense global standoff. This pervasive fear led to widespread civil defense measures, such as bomb shelters and school drills, and has left a lasting impact on generations. The legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serves as a stark warning about the consequences of unchecked technological advancement and the urgent need for global cooperation. The bombings resulted in unprecedented devastation and loss of life, leaving scars that are still felt today. Memorial ceremonies at places like Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park remind us of the human cost of nuclear warfare and the importance of remembering history to prevent future tragedies. As we continue to grapple with the threat of nuclear proliferation, it is imperative that we learn from the past, strive for a world free of these weapons, and work together to ensure that such devastation is never unleashed again. International efforts, such as treaties and disarmament negotiations, play a crucial role in this endeavor. The vision of a peaceful world, where nations collaborate to solve global challenges, is not just a dream but a necessity for the survival of humanity. By fostering a culture of peace and unity, we can hope to build a future where the legacy of fear is replaced by a legacy of hope and cooperation.